Midnight. Peter's apartment glowed with the blue light of too many screens. Tabs stacked like bricks of a wall he couldn't climb. The hum of his laptop fan filled the silence. His phone vibrated, again and again. He reached for it, stopped, then reached again. Every buzz felt urgent. None of it mattered. His email was a battlefield. Unread messages in red, deadlines in bold. A Slack ping cut through the quiet. Another request, another tiny emergency. Peter's chest tightened. His mind darted between tasks like a trapped bird. He told himself he was multitasking, but deep down he knew he was drowning. He clicked from document to browser to calendar. All motion, no meaning. The cursor blinked on an empty campaign brief. That little pulse of judgment. He whispered, almost without sound, "What happened to me? He used to be good at this. He used to love creating." Now he just maintained the illusion of progress, answering, replying, surviving. The clock read 12:47 a.m. A half-cold coffee sat beside his mouse. He scrolled for no reason. Then, on a whim, he opened YouTube. A title caught his eye, Deep Work. Rules for Focused Success in a Distracted World. He hesitated, then clicked. The narrator's voice filled the room. The ability to focus without distraction is becoming rare, and that rarity makes it valuable. Peter leaned forward. Every word felt like it was aimed at him. Shallow work keeps you busy. Deep work makes you valuable. He paused the video, stared at his reflection in the dark screen. Maybe that's why everything felt empty. He hadn't done anything deep in months. He whispered, "Maybe that's what I've lost." He ordered the book before closing his laptop. For the first time in weeks, he slept. 2 days later, the book arrived. Matte black cover, quiet confidence. It didn't shout, it waited. Peter brewed coffee, sat by the window, and began to read. Deep work is the ability to focus without distraction on a cognitively demanding task. Simple words, brutal truth. He underlined the sentence until the paper almost tore. That afternoon, he made a decision. One experiment, one rule. No notifications until noon. He shut everything off. Silence filled the air. A strange, heavy silence that felt almost hostile. His thoughts scattered like dust in sunlight. He wanted to run, check messages, scroll, escape. But he stayed. Minutes crawled, then something shifted. The noise in his head began to settle. Ideas he thought were gone returned, fragile but real. By the end of 90 minutes, he had a concept written, rough, unpolished, alive. He smiled. Wasn't perfect, but it was his. That was Principle 1, work deeply. The first doorway Cal Newport offered, the hardest one to walk through. Peter had touched it, but he didn't yet know how easily the world could pull him back out. A week later, success made him careless. He started building systems, charts, apps to optimize focus. He was back in motion, without meaning. When the next deadline came, he froze. He'd planned everything, except the work itself. His perfectionism whispered, if it isn't flawless, don't start. So he didn't. He missed the deadline, again. Another message from his boss. We'll use Emily's version. Yours isn't ready. He closed the laptop slowly. The silence returned, this time heavier. He reopened the book. A highlighted line stared back. Clarity about what matters provides clarity about what does not. He exhaled, long. Maybe the point wasn't to work more efficiently. Maybe it was to work on the right thing and nothing else. He whispered, focus isn't about intensity. It's about honesty. Principle 2, embrace boredom. He began practicing silence, 15 minutes each morning. No music, no phone. just him and the sound of the refrigerator. At first, boredom itched under his skin. Then, one morning, boredom became peace, and peace became thought. Ideas began to appear again, quietly, almost shyly. He realized the brain, deprived of noise, starts to create. Morning light spilled into Peter's apartment. The city was already awake, but he moved slower now. He made coffee without opening his phone. The steam curled into the quiet air, and for the first time, the silence didn't feel heavy. It felt earned. He opened his notebook and wrote at the top of the page, "My deep work experiment." For a few weeks, he lived like a monk in the middle of the modern world. Notifications? Gone. Meetings? Cut to half. Every morning began with 2 hours of focus before the world could reach him. At first, it was awkward, then addictive. The work felt smoother, cleaner, almost meditative. He could feel his brain stretching, the same way muscles burn before they grow. But habits have shadows, and his old perfectionism was waiting, just out of sight. He began noticing tiny flaws again. Typos, formatting, style. He started redoing slides instead of writing ideas. He was working deeply, but on the wrong things. It was perfection disguised as focus. The pressure built until one night, around 11 p.m., he found himself polishing a tagline for the 20th time. He stared at it, then whispered, "This isn't deep work. This is fear." He pushed the chair back and opened deep work again. A line glowed under his desk lamp. "If you don't prioritize your life, someone else will." He wrote those words on a sticky note and placed it on his monitor. That became his second rule. Focus is not about working more. It's about working on what matters most. Principle 3. Quit social media. A few days later, during lunch, he caught himself scrolling. Not for pleasure, just reflex. He realized he was checking updates from people he didn't even like, chasing relevance he didn't even need. Every scroll was a tax on his focus. He flicked the phone over, screen down, and whispered, "I quit." That evening, he deleted every app that had a feed. The icons disappeared one by one, and the silence that followed felt strange, like removing background noise you didn't know was there. The first few days were rough. He felt phantom vibrations, a digital ghost tugging at him. But slowly, he began to breathe again. He filled the empty space with long walks, reading real books, thinking. He discovered what Newport meant when he wrote, "Clarity requires solitude." It wasn't about isolation. It was about returning to your own mind. Principle 4. Drain the shallows. With social noise gone, Peter turned to the chaos inside his schedule. He printed a weekly calendar, the battlefield of his attention. Meetings, follow-ups, endless quick syncs. He shaded each block that didn't require deep thinking, and by the end, 80% of his week was blue with shallows. No wonder he was drowning. He began canceling. At first, it felt rebellious, then liberating. Each no became a door closing on distraction. Each free block became oxygen for his best ideas. He started to realize something quietly radical. Focus is a moral choice. The world would always ask for more, but the brave thing is to give less. Principle 5, Rule of Grand Gestures. It happened 2 months into his transformation. He had been consistent, disciplined, but something inside him still felt ordinary. He wanted a spark, a commitment that would burn his ships. Then he remembered a story from Newport's book. J.K. Rowling, exhausted by distractions, checked herself into a hotel to finish Harry Potter. That bold move, that grand gesture, gave her the psychological weight to finish strong. Peter smiled. Maybe he needed his own grand gesture. He took a week off work. No travel, no meetings. He rented a small cabin 2 hours outside the city. No Wi-Fi, no signal. Just him, a notebook, and the sound of wind in the trees. The first day, he couldn't focus. The quiet was almost violent. He missed the hum of messages and the illusion of importance. But by day 3, something cracked open. Ideas flooded in like light through broken blinds. He outlined an entire new pitch system for his agency, one that valued depth over volume. A system that would change not just his work, but the culture around him. Filled 10 pages in his notebook before looking up, dazed but smiling. He whispered, "So this is what it feels like." That night, under the hum of the cabin heater, he reread another line. Great achievements require long periods of uninterrupted thought. He underlined it 3 times. He knew then, deep work wasn't a productivity hack. It was a way of living deliberately. When he returned home, he felt like a stranger in his own apartment. The screens seemed louder, the city more impatient, but he moved differently now. He protected his focus the way a monk protects silence. His mornings became sacred. Deep work, no matter what. By noon, he emerged calm, composed, ahead. Coworkers began to notice. "Peter, you seem different," one said. He smiled. "I stopped being busy." Principle 6, be lazy. One evening, as he closed his laptop, he remembered another of Newport's rules. Downtime aids insight. He decided to try the shutdown ritual. Every evening, before leaving work, he whispered aloud, "Shutdown complete." It felt silly at first, but soon it became a switch, a signal to his mind that the day was done, that rest wasn't laziness, it was maintenance. He stopped checking emails after 7 p.m. He read fiction, cooked slowly, slept deeply, and each morning he woke with ideas waiting for him, polished by the unconscious mind that had finally been given peace. Weeks passed, then months. Peter's focus sharpened like a blade. He didn't feel rushed anymore. He felt centered. The book's lessons had dissolved into his habits. No longer rules to remember, but a rhythm to live by. Sometimes late at night, he still opened his old folders, half-finished projects, abandoned ideas. But now he didn't feel guilt. He felt gratitude, because those fragments were proof of a man who once lived on the surface and who had now learned to dive deep. He closed the book one final time, underlined the last line he wanted to remember forever. A deep life is a good life. He smiled, because he finally understood what it meant. Morning again, different light this time, softer, calmer. Peter brewed his coffee the same way, but the act itself felt like meditation. He no longer opened his phone while the kettle boiled. He just waited. Waiting had become his secret advantage. At the office, a quiet confidence followed him. He didn't rush to speak in meetings. He listened, really listened, before answering. When he did, people leaned in. His words carried weight now, shaped by focus, not urgency. His coworkers joked, "Peter's in monk mode again." He smiled. They didn't realize how accurate that was. A few weeks later, the agency announced a new pitch, the biggest client of the year. High pressure, high stakes, the kind of project that once would have swallowed him whole. This time, he didn't panic. He cleared his calendar, set one rule: no shallow work before noon. He opened a blank page and didn't flinch. Silence filled the space where anxiety used to live. Then, slowly, words appeared. He worked in deep intervals, 90 minutes on, 20 minutes off. No phone, no messages, just flow. Hours blurred. By evening, he'd built the foundation of an entire campaign. Simple, honest, beautiful. He called it, "Stillness is the new luxury." When presentation day came, the boardroom was crowded. Executives, clients, the usual chaos of half attention. Peter walked in calm. No last-minute slides, no panic rehearsals. He began slowly. In a world addicted to speed, stillness is what stands out. The room quieted. He spoke with pauses that landed like stones in water, ripples spreading. Each idea built on the last. When he finished, there was silence, not awkward, reverent. Then applause, real, sustained applause. His boss grinned. "Peter, that was different, powerful." He nodded once. Inside, he felt something stronger than pride, peace. That night, he walked home under city lights, thinking about how success used to feel like sprinting, and now it felt like breathing. He realized he'd stopped measuring his value by output. He measured it by depth. Depth of focus, depth of relationships, depth of presence. 6 months later, epilogue. The winter rain tapped softly against his window. Peter sat at the same desk where his breakdown had begun. Only now, the desk was clear. One notebook, one pen, one mug of tea. He opened the notebook and wrote, "6 months of deep work." Beneath it, he listed what had changed. No more frantic mornings. No phone in the bedroom. 3 hours of deep focus daily. Real rest, not scrolling disguised as rest. Better ideas, better sleep, better self. He paused, smiling at the simplicity. Then he added one last line. "I don't chase clarity anymore. I create it." He closed the notebook, whispered the ritual words, "Shutdown complete." And for the first time in years, his mind stayed silent. Narrator's reflection to the viewer. Maybe you felt it too. That quiet exhaustion of always being on. The tabs in your mind that never close. The guilt that follows you from work to weekend. Peter's story isn't unique. It's the story of anyone who's ever mistaken motion for progress. Cal Newport called it the deep life. A life built not on volume, but on value. Not on endless activity, but deliberate attention. The book offered 6 quiet rules. Rules that changed Peter and might just change you. 1. Work deeply. Guard your focus like treasure. It's not how long you work, it's how undistractedly you work. 2. Embrace boredom. Let silence do its work. When the mind stops consuming, it starts creating. 3. Quit social media. Attention is your currency. Spend it on meaning, not noise. 4. Drain the shallows. Be ruthless with your time. Every yes costs focus you can never regain. 5. Rule of grand gestures. Commit so deeply it scares you. Big moves create big momentum. 6. Be lazy. Rest is not the opposite of work. It's the soil where ideas grow. Peter learned these one by one, through mistakes, silence, and courage. And somewhere along the way, he stopped chasing the idea of productivity and began practicing the art of presence. Dawn again. Peter stands on his balcony, watching sunlight spill between buildings. He holds his coffee, steam curling upward like thought itself. He doesn't think about the next task. He doesn't scroll. He just watches the city wake. The same world, a different man. He whispers to himself, deep work, deep life. Maybe tonight, when the noise fades and the screens dim, you'll remember Peter. You'll remember that peace isn't hiding from the world. It's learning to be undistracted within it. You don't need a cabin in the woods or a miracle morning routine. You just need to choose, right here, right now, what truly deserves your attention. Because the quality of your life will always follow the quality of your focus. If Peter's journey spoke to you, tell us below. What's one area of your life you'll go deep on this week? Like, share, and subscribe for more cinematic stories that turn great books into living lessons. If Peter's journey spoke to you, tell us below. What's one area of your life you'll go deep on this week? Like, share, and subscribe for more stories that turn great books into living lessons.